What's going on there?
I just tried to wake up my daughter for school, and she has no pulse.
Never in my life would I kill someone that I love that much.
This is Riley Gaul, and while he claims he would never do something so heinous, his friend's undercover mission with the hidden camera proved otherwise.
Listen, you guys, with my life, because, this is 70 years in jail if I get convicted of something I didn't do.
Why can't you just give him a gun? It just needs to be gone.
It was early morning on November 21st, 2016. A frosty morning with the holidays on the horizon, Knoxville, Tennessee was already aglow in Christmas lights and the spirit of the holiday season. The Walker family was eager for the upcoming Thanksgiving break to spend time together and make memories as a family. In recent years, Jill and Mark Walker had butted heads with their daughter Emma over her romantic relationship. But in recent weeks, things had gone back to normal. For the first time in what felt like forever, they were a happy family, and their connection with their bright, loving daughter was strong. Eager to get the last 2 days of school before Thanksgiving break out of the way, Jill poked her head into Emma's room and called to her, urging her to wake up so she wouldn't be late. Emma didn't stir. Jill stepped closer, calling her daughter's name a little more forcefully. Still, nothing. That being said, a hard wake-up isn't unusual for any teenager. Jill could see Emma laying under her covers, her eyes shut peacefully. She lightly touched her daughter's arm to shake her awake, and her heart stopped. Emma was stone cold to the touch. In a panic, Jill called 911.
Where is your emergency?
I'm Jill Walker.
What's going on there?
I just tried to wake up my daughter for school, and she has no pulse.
How old is she?
She's 16.
You said that she's non-responsive?
Yeah.
When sheriff's deputies arrived at the Walker home, their first thought was that Emma's death had been caused by her own hand. She was just 16, active in cheerleading and her community with no known health issues. The way she had been found, sleeping peacefully in her bed with no visible disturbances, seemed to further this claim. But when one of the officers looked closer, the team quickly realized that this case wasn't going to be as open and shut as it seemed. Because, burrowed in the wall directly next to Emma's head, was a bullet hole. The bullet hole wasn't an entrance hole, as it would have been if Emma had fired the shot. It was an exit hole. Bits of plaster and dust littered Emma's pillow. It had been clear that the bullet had been fired outside the home through the wall. Upon closer inspection, Emma had a single gunshot wound behind her ear. She had been turned on her side, sleeping when the shot was fired. Mercifully, she was fast asleep and unaware when her life was snatched from her. The odd scene gave investigators clues right off the bat. There had been 2 shots fired, one on the side of the wall that killed Emma, and then another shot from the head of the bed at a slightly different angle that missed her and was stuck in her pillow. It was a cold, calculated setup to ensure one thing: Emma would be hit by at least one of the bullets. That meant that whoever had fired those bullets knew exactly where Emma was sleeping. And almost immediately, Emma's family knew who was behind it.
So what name did you give the police as to the person that you believe would cause harm to your daughter?
Riley Gaul.
Emma was a freshman in high school when she met William Riley Gaul, who went by Riley. In a tale as old as time, 14-year-old Emma caught the eye of Riley, who was a 16-year-old junior at the same school. Emma was a wildly dedicated, hardworking student with a passion for caring for others and a desire to make everyone around her feel confident and happy in themselves. Not only did she take accelerated classes, but she was a member of the National Beta Club and the Young Life organization. In addition, she was part of Health Occupation Students of America, an organization with technical programs that introduce students to training in various health-related fields. Emma dreamt of being a neonatal nurse, something her family had no doubt she would have achieved with her compassion and drive. She first noticed Riley at a hometown football game in fall of 2014, where she was cheering and he was the wide receiver. Cheerleading was her life, and her teammates were her closest friends. She was as vibrant on the field as she was off it, and Riley immediately took notice of her too. At the time, however, there was a problem. Riley was in a relationship with another girl. Regardless, he pursued Emma while he was still with his girlfriend. Even after he ended his relationship with her and began one with Emma, he was still seeing his ex. Emma's family and friends have repeatedly told the press that it was clear to them that Riley was playing both of the girls. At first, Emma's parents loved Riley, finding him to be respectful and charming. But when they learned about him playing with Emma and his ex's emotions, their positive opinion of Riley started to diminish. As their relationship progressed, it got worse and worse. From the outside, their relationship looked like an American dream. A star football player and the kind popular cheerleader who were always dressed to the nines, going on adventures and making romantic posts about each other. Emma showed gifts that Riley got her and frequently remarked about how lucky she was to have him. In turn, Riley did the same, writing detailed posts about how much he loved his girlfriend. But quickly, that love transformed into obsession and a need for control. Riley began to berate Emma for the things she wore, demanding that she cover up her body more. On multiple occasions, her mom noticed the changes and urged Emma not to alter her personal style just to appease a boy. Slowly, Emma started spending less and less time with her friends. Riley had a fierce grip on her and reportedly told her where she could and couldn't go. When she was with her friends, she spent the majority of their visits fighting with Riley over text and trying to calm him down. Her friends noticed the change in her behavior and the constant control she was under and tried to talk her into ending her relationship with him. Unfortunately, Riley had already broken down her self-confidence. Emma's mom told ABC News that Riley had a hold on Emma and convinced her that there was no one else for her. For 2 years, the two continued in their turbulent on and off again relationship. When Emma went to work at a nearby supermarket, Riley would often wait outside in his car for hours until she left in order to keep tabs on her. Whenever the two were on a break, he would show up at places he had no reason being in order to run into Emma. He would text her and call her repeatedly, and when it seemed like she was really ready to end the relationship, he would threaten to harm himself. His behavior reached a point where Emma's parents felt they had no choice but to step in for their daughter's safety. After reading messages from Riley one night, they were devastated and at a loss for words. Riley, who was 17 at the time, had texted 15-year-old Emma, "F you, you piece of shit," over and over again. Later in the texts, he made a mention of Emma previously telling him that she wanted to end her life. He said, "Gain some confidence and I'll check the obituary." Jill and Mark Walker were crushed that anyone had been sending their daughter these messages, let alone someone who claimed to love her. As a result, they decided to have a talk with Emma and take away her phone to limit her contact with Riley. But teenagers always find a way, especially when they have a need for control, like Riley. Riley gave Emma an old iPod Touch that she could connect to the internet in order to talk to him over Messenger. For months, their relationship continued over the iPod Touch. By summer 2016, the two were back in their on-again, off-again relationship, but Riley wasn't allowed at the Walker house under any circumstances. Emma's parents had tried as hard as they could to separate the two, but Emma needed time to make the decision for herself. And that time came in October of 2016. Emma went to a party at a close friend's house with her parents' permission. She wasn't supposed to see Riley under any circumstances, but soon, Riley showed up. Emma and Riley reportedly got into a verbal argument in the driveway, prompting a neighbor to call the police for a domestic disturbance. When police arrived, Emma was forced to call her parents and tell them what had happened. After hearing this, Mark and Jill grounded her. She was only allowed to go to school and cheering, but very quickly, this seemed to work for everyone. By that autumn, Riley was attending college about 30 minutes away, meaning that Emma had no physical contact with him. With this lack of contact, it seems that Emma got to free herself from his grasp. Within days of being grounded, her parents remarked that she was acting like herself again. She wasn't anxiously glued to her phone, she wasn't closed off and crying, she was bubbly, vibrant, and connected to both her friends and family. With this time to think, and after seeing photos of Riley with another girl, Emma decided it was time to end her relationship with him for good. Her friends commented that she seemed confident in her decision and that they all felt their prayers had been answered. But Riley didn't want to let Emma go. And starting in November, he decided he was going to do whatever he could to have her, even if it took desperate and violent measures. It finally seemed like things were coming together for Emma. On the night of November 18th, her parents let her go to a party at a nearby friend's house. Since Riley was out of the picture for good, they felt confident in letting their daughter spread her wings and enjoy herself. They had no idea that this night was the night that things would take a drastic turn. At around 11:30 p.m., Emma pulled aside one of her friends in a panic and showed him text messages that had been flooding her phone. Each message was more deranged and taunting than the next, all coming from an unfamiliar Georgia number. "Come outside if you don't want to see a loved one get hurt," read one message. Another one read, "Go to your car with your keys alone. If you don't comply, I will hurt them." Emma was convinced that the messages were a friend of Riley's trying to get her worked up. Since she ended things, Riley had made numerous attempts to reach out to her, so this wouldn't be out of the realm of possibilities. When Emma threatened to call police, the messages that flooded her phone after were enough to make her sick to her stomach. One read, "If you'd like to hear him crying and screaming, give him a call." Then finally, a message told her that Riley had been dumped outside. When she and a friend went outside to check, they discovered Riley face down in the grass. When Emma confronted him, asking why he was there, he reportedly grabbed his head and acted as if he'd been hit. He spoke in a dreamlike voice, asking where he was and how he'd gotten on the lawn. Then he told everyone that he must have been kidnapped. Emma began to violently sob and told Riley to leave her alone, not at all believing the kidnapping story. According to her friend's parents, it took Emma a half hour of crying and hyperventilating before she finally calmed down. They reportedly closed all the shades on the house and locked all the doors and windows to help her feel safe. That night, instead of sleeping in the guest room by herself, Emma begged her friend to sleep in her bed with her because she was scared. Her friend agreed, and at least for the night, she was able to feel safe. By the next morning, though, those feelings of safety went out the window. Emma dropped a friend off before she drove back to her own home. The two noticed a man, all in black, walking down the street, but they didn't pay too much attention to it. Then, as soon as Emma was in her house alone, the man appeared on her doorstep. He reportedly banged on the door and rang the doorbell, terrifying Emma, who hid and texted a friend, "I'm home alone, and somebody in all black walked down my street, came to my door, and rang the doorbell over and over again. I thought I was going to die." In a panic, Emma reached out to the man who she had seen as her protector for several years. She texted Riley, "I hate you, but I need you right now." Riley responded that he was speeding over. He arrived in far less than the 30 minutes it should have taken him to drive from campus, and the man in black had mysteriously disappeared. Emma was so shaken up that she didn't even consider Riley and the man in black were the same person. Down the road, however, one of her friends had essentially confirmed it. She spotted the man in all black walking to a car that matched Riley's. When she waved, Riley even waved back. At the time, however, Emma had no way of knowing this. When Jill arrived home to discover Emma and Riley on the front lawn, she sent Riley away. At first, Riley refused, saying Emma needed him. But eventually Jill made it clear she wasn't taking no for an answer. At the end of the conversation, Emma had stated that she didn't want to rekindle her relationship with Riley and that she just wanted him to go. Over the next several days, Riley made over 40 calls to Emma using his roommate's phone. Emma ignored each one and refused to text him back whatsoever. Eventually, Riley stopped making contact and moved on to other plans. At some point, he stole a 9mm handgun from his grandfather. It wasn't widely known or publicized at the time of the crime, but Riley had attempted to take his own life sometime between the end of October and Emma's death. When his grandfather realized his gun was missing, his first thought was that Riley was taking it to harm himself. In reality, he was taking it to harm someone else. On November 20th, 2016, Riley had a usual day. She texted friends about homework and went out with her dad to get ice cream. She went to bed a little before midnight, and tragically, that was the last time anyone saw her alive. Sometime around 12 to 1, Mark heard a door slam twice. He inspected the house and didn't see anything amiss. Everyone was soundly in their beds and the doors were locked, so he returned to bed. He had no idea that his daughter was already dead in her bed when he checked on her. Emma's family and her friends were devastated by the loss of the bright young woman. They held candlelight vigils in her honor that were attended by hundreds, including Riley. Immediately after Emma's death, Riley changed his social media profile pictures to photos of Emma and wrote long-winded posts about his love for her. For Emma's family and friends who knew that Riley had something to do with her death, it made her loss even more heartbreaking. The day after Emma's murder, investigators were already interviewing Riley. In his interrogation, he began by telling law enforcement about the kidnapping he had endured, despite the fact that when his friends offered to call the cops to report it for him, he reportedly told them not to.
It was traumatizing. I didn't know what to make of it. Went up to my stepdad's house, and I pulled in the driveway, and this van pulled over across in the semicircle, and these two guys were like walking across the street, and I know one of them grabs my back, and the other one's around the corner, and they just like put their hands over my face and just took me to their van or whatever.
Why would somebody do that to you?
I genuinely have no idea. They did ask me, they were like, you know, like, who would you want to talk to for the last time? And so I started freaking out, and I said Emma. And they made me call Emma, and I was just crying and screaming. She thought it was a joke. She thought I was playing a prank on her. That's when she FaceTime called me. She was crying and freaking out, so I said, okay, give me a minute, I'll come down there and check it out. The only thing that I thought of was whoever the person was at her house Saturday morning. That's the first thing I thought of. How much I loved her, and that I was sorry that she didn't want what we had anymore. She didn't care about the relationship anymore. She said she cared about me, she loved me, but she didn't care to be with me anymore. I sat in the parking lot just looking at pictures of us. The girl, she texted me.
Which girl?
The one that passed away.
Oh, okay. What's her name?
Emma. I hope to God I'm not a suspect in her death.
Did I say you were?
I hope you don't think it, because I wouldn't hurt that girl for... I would hurt myself if I hurt her, and that's what I've done.
Did you shoot into Emma's house?
No, sir.
Not only was Riley's claim of kidnapping not flying for detectives, but pretty much everything he said raised red flags. He essentially refused to call Emma by her name multiple times, instead referring to her as that girl in a clear attempt to distance himself from her and the crime. It was obvious to detectives who had ended Emma's life and why, but there wasn't much they could do without a weapon or DNA proving he was behind the crime. When they interviewed people close to Riley, their certainty that he was the culprit grew even more. Noah and Alex, two of his closest friends, had plenty of concerning things to tell law enforcement. Immediately after getting out of his interrogation, Riley sent this text to one of them, urging him to delete his texts. At the time of the interrogation, Noah and Alex had no idea that Emma had been killed. When they learned the truth, they didn't hesitate to spill absolutely everything they knew. According to them, Riley had asked if they would help him throw away his grandfather's gun. He stated that he had gotten it for protection, but because of Emma's death, officers were going to think he used it to kill her. In addition, he asked them if he knew how to remove fingerprints off a gun. Even with the friend's testimony, police didn't have enough to take Riley down. But Noah and Alex were determined to change that. They begged detectives to let them go undercover so the police could retrieve the murder weapon and charge him. At first, police were apprehensive, but the two young men were insistent, saying they were less concerned for their safety and more concerned about justice not being served. Eventually, all parties came to an agreement. Noah and Alex would wear wires and convince Riley that they would help him dispose of the gun in the Tennessee River. As soon as he pulled the gun out, one of the boys would text detectives a code word, launching them into action. Despite the solid plan, when the fateful day came, everyone was on edge. Noah and Alex sat down with Riley and began to discuss Emma's death.
What about Emma, dog? I want to be so upset and I can't, because I'm more worried about getting arrested and putting away for murder that I didn't commit. Never in my life would I kill someone that I love that much.
Love you, bro. It sucks you gotta deal with all this, man.
Listen, you guys, like, with my life, because, I mean, this is 70 years in jail if I get convicted of something I didn't do.
Why can't you just give him a gun?
It just needs to be gone. For whatever reason, it just needs to be gone. You guys don't have to come with me if you don't want to.
I mean, I got your back, man.
It's in the Tennessee River. They will never find it.
They don't know anything because if they did, I would be in jail right now. Everybody that is friends with her that doesn't like me because of like our past or whatever, they've said she killed herself, like she shot herself because of me, or that I shot her, or that there's a whole other like category of blame where the people that understood the situation said she killed herself because of me and her parents, or she just killed herself because of her parents, but she didn't kill herself. She did. Nobody knows that but me and you two and my grandparents. They haven't released that to anybody. People just make up shit because they want me to be inculpated.
Soon after this talk, the three piled into a car and made their way to the Tennessee River. As soon as the gun was pulled out, police flashed their lights. Riley's reaction is telling.
What the f***? Oh my god, man. What the f***, dude? What the f***?
Everybody put your hands out of the vehicle now.
Oh, damn it, dude.
Yep. Hold what you got. Leave your hands out of the vehicle.
Riley was taken into custody and charged with first-degree murder, stalking, felony murder, tampering with evidence, possessing a firearm during a dangerous felony, reckless endangerment, and theft between $500 and $1,000. At trial, things took a frustrating turn for the family. Riley's team tried to claim that he had fired the weapon to scare Emma, and in turn, urge her back into a relationship with him. As such, they stated that Riley should be charged with reckless homicide instead of first-degree murder. However, Emma's family, friends, and legal team stated that the murder had been planned because Riley couldn't stand Emma breaking up with him.
Mr. Gilder, in count 1, the first defined offense, charging the defendant with first-degree murder. Did the jury reach a verdict?
Yes, we did.
What is your verdict?
Guilty.
Riley was sentenced to life in prison and will not be eligible for parole until 2075. In the tragic loss of Emma, her family has found solace in preserving her legacy. A neonatal room was named after her at the nearby hospital, a reminder of her dream to be a neonatal nurse. Because of her love of dogs and animals, a dog park was renamed the Emma Jane Walker Memorial Park. And of course, there's a scholarship in her name, helping young students with a desire to do great things in the medical field, just as she would have.